Snehashish, hello.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Can you please start 2 3
Am I audible?
minutes back? Just repeat what
Okay,
you
yeah,
have done in
sure.
the last 5 minutes.
Okay, okay,
Oh,
okay, okay,
okay.
okay.
Just a minute. Just 1 minute.
When you are
Abhijit
ready, you
also
just
give the new link because that stream has ended, I suppose. You have ended that YouTube stream.
Yeah, Urchik, can you share that link in the group?
Yeah, but what that was not a link what you have given me.
The one I
Check it
just
once.
gave in Google Meet.
Acha. Okay, so I have given. Please wait 2 to 3 minutes for students to join, then you can resume. Okay.
it is again, I guess, streaming. So should I start or wait for the others to join?
Just wait a just wait for
So
a minute.
just
I'm
wait a
checking it
minute or
once.
two.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so you can start now, Snehashish.
Okay. Uh, uh, Welcome you back on. I mean, there were some technical glitches because of what the last streaming stopped. So technical team has looked upon me. And so let's start afresh about logistic regression. Okay. Uh, so logistic regression is a classification problem. So logistic regression is a classification model. Okay, it is a classification model. Now, as we know, the regression deals with the numerical values or numerical outputs, and classification deals with categorical outputs. So, what can be the possible categorical outputs? Depending on the number of outputs, the classification is divided into two parts. Okay, one is binary, another is multi-class. Okay, so the binary classification has output like yes, no, positive, negative, and like that. So these kind of output is uh, understood by the machine as zeros and ones. The machine takes these as zeros and ones. And for multi-class output, there can be more than one. So let's say for animal classification, it can be deer, tiger, dog, cat, etc. So for that, they use two kind of model to understand what are those classes. One is one hot encoding, and other is level encoding. Okay, so these are the types of classification. Okay, for this course, for this lecture, we will be using binary classification process. Okay, so it is a bit easy to understand. Once we understand binary classification, we can move on to multi-class classification using the same method. So the model is same for we will use logistic regression. I will be
কি আলাদা হবে
explaining
আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে
using a example of binary
না না
classification,
তখনই
and then
13 ছিল
you can
এখন
move
10
on to the multi-class classification using the same model also. Okay, so let's see what logistic regression is all about. Okay? So logistic regression means in case of linear regression, we can have any value as an output. But the logistic regression uses a function. The function is called sigmoid function. The sigmoid function. This is also known as logistic function. Okay. So, what is the sigmoid function? It says zeta z is equals to 1 upon pi z 1 upon e to the power minus z. Okay. Now, what it does, given any value of z, it will be convert those values between 0 to 1. So the curve of this function looks like this. So this is my, if this is my 0, this is my 1. For z, any value of z, it will be plotted something like this. Okay, let's say this is my 0.5. Let me just draw it more clearly. So this is my z, this is my phi z. Okay, so the logistic regression plots it from 0 to 1. Okay, so this is for let's say this is my z is equals to 0. Now, given this curve, we can set a threshold for phi z. Let's say phi z is equals to phi z less than 0.5. It will treat as it will treat any value of phi z less than 5 as 0, and it can use any value uh, above phi z as 1. So if phi z is greater than 0.5, it will be taken as 1. So this way we can divide the entire group of output as 0 and 1. So this is the working principle of logistic regression. Okay. If you want to see more mathematical explanation, I encourage you to go to this reference. Uh, the book name is same, that is the Introduction to Statistical Modeling.
যাই
Introduction to Statistical Model, that is written by uh, what is his name? Gareth James. Okay, and you go to section 4. Okay, 4 to 4.3. This is the section where we will find the mathematical explanation of logistic regression. So if you want to dig deep into mathematical explanation, you can always refer to this. Okay, now if given a signal or given a mathematical model in linear regression, let's say we have a linear regression, mm, a linear regression model as, let's say, y is equals to b naught plus b1x. Okay, and this model looks something like this. Okay, if I want to transform it into logistic regression, what will be the 1 upon the value is 1 upon 1 plus e to the power minus b naught plus b1x. Okay, so this is my logistic regression. Sorry, I mean, this is my linear regression model. Linear regression model, this one, which is this curve, this represented by this curve. And if I turn it into logistic regression, like this is my logistic regression. Logistic regression. This may be look something like this. This may look something like this. Okay. So the blue line represents the logistic regression. So this is essentially the mathematical formulation of logistic regression. Okay. Now, given the mathematical explanation, let's jump into our Jupyter notebook and see how this works. Okay. So I'm just switching the window. Just give me a second.
Snashish, I think you are in mute mode.
Oh,
So what you have been telling
oh.
us?
Okay, okay. Oh, sorry for the interruption. I forgot to unmute my mic. Okay, so I guess whatever I said, mm, you didn't listen to it. I mean, you couldn't listen to it. Uh, however, if I switch back to my previous board, let me just uh, present it. Uh, I guess the idea of um, logistic regression is clear. If not, let me just brief you. Uh, Logistic regression uses a sigmoid function, which essentially plots all the possible values of a given feature between 0 to 1. Okay, so a linear regression plots the value linearly, so goes it can go below 0, it can go well above 1. Okay, let's say a linear regression formula as y equals to b naught plus b1x. And if I want to design a logistic regression model, it is designed like this. So the entire equation we will be using as 1 upon 1 plus e to the power minus x, and my x is this b naught plus b1x. So this is the logistic regression. So if linear regression have this red line as a linear model, it will be changed or it will be converted into this blue line as a logistic regression model. So if we have a model which has output like yes or no, or positive or negative. Okay, if these are the outputs, uh, it can be plotted like this, and we can use. Let me just. There is so much cluttering, so let me just redraw it. So let's say
মা
this is my
তাড়াতাড়ি এসো এখানে
logistic regression output. Uh, this is my
সোমবার থেকে বন্ধ
linear regression output, and this is the value 0, 0.51. So if I want to create two distinguishable output like 0 for no and 1 for yes, or 0 for negative, a patient is diagnostic negative diagnosis negative cancer, and a patient diagnosis as positive cancer patient. Okay, so that is, if that represents 0 and 1, we can calculate p given the features. Let's this these are the features. Let's say we have one feature x, and the coefficient of x is b1, and there is a constant b0. If this is the relation between the patient's output and the input feature x. So if we plot it like this using a logistic regression and use this formula, p is equals to 1 upon 1 plus e to the power minus b naught plus b1x, then it will plot like this, and we will use a threshold. Let's say we will use p. If p greater than 0.5, then it will be treated as positive case 1. If p less than 0.5 or less than equals to 0.5, it will be treated as negative case. So this way we can categorize the entire input for all z. It will be categorized either positive patient or negative patient. Okay, so this is how logistic regression works. This is the background mathematical formula, the sigmoid function, also known as logistic function, right? And if you want to know more about logistic regression, this is the uh, reference you can always look to: Introduction to Statistical Modeling by Gareth James, and section 4 to 4.1 to 4.3. That is discussed here in this section, the mathematical background of logistic regression. Okay, and one more thing, classification. A classification can have two type of classification. One is binary, one is multi-class. Binary means we have two predicted output, two output to predict yes or no, and multi-class means we can have more than two. Let's say it is a animal classification, we can have cat, dog, tiger, bear, any number of classification, any number of class. Okay, so this is the difference between binary and multi class classification. In binary classification, these two classes represent as 1 and 0. In multi class classification, these are encoded as either one hot encoding or level encoding. One hot encoding means,
শেষ
let's
হয়নি
say I
এখনো
want to
খাওয়া
encode
শেষ হয়নি
cat, so I will encode it like 1000. For dog, it will be 0100 likewise. And for level encoding, it will be encoded as cat as 1, dog as 2, tiger as 3, deer as 4. So these are the methods of encoding the model. Because we know yes, no, cat, dog, these are the categories, and categories cannot be fed into a model. We need to convert it into some numerical form. So these are the process to convert it. Okay, so this is the overall introduction of logistic regression. You can always go to this reference to find out more the statistical and mathematical background of logistic regression. Okay, and now let's move on to the coding part. So I'm switching my uh, screen. Okay, so this is where we started coding. You may have seen. So there we didn't do much, fortunately. So first of all, what we did, we just imported the libraries. Okay, so libraries are imported, and then we use a data set that is Titanic data set. Okay, that is the famous data set. Every student or every practitioner who starts
সাহিত্যটা বেশি
machine
স্যার
learning gets a hands on this data. Okay, it is a very famous data set, and we will be
দিচ্ছি
looking into this data set. And the reason I am using different data sets for different example or different model or different lecture is because you get an idea how the data can be handled. There are many problems with many types of data. So in real life, when you get a data, you know uh, a majority of process how to deal with the data first, because as you have seen in there is nothing much in model designing. Okay, although I didn't tweak any parameters, hyperparameters, we can tweak the hyperparameters when what we will be seeing in our lectures hopefully. But still there is not much we need to do with the model design part, but we need to do a lot of things with the data itself. Okay, so that's why I am taking different data sets to give you an idea how the data can differ from case to case. Okay, so here we are using Titanic data set. So I have just uploaded the data set. You may have seen that. After uploading it, we just load the data set using train pt.waitsev. Then we just uh, we saw how the dataset looks like. So this is the overall dataset. Now we have some missing values here in cabin, right? So we want to see if there is any other column which have missing values. So for that, we just used is null command. So train dot is null, and it gives a boolean output. If the data set has an empty set, it gives a true. So here Kevin is true, as we have seen. This is a NaN value, so we have a true output. And if there is not a missing value, if there is a value present, it gives a false. So these are the output of is null, right? Now we want to see in a visualization how many values are missing and in which columns they are missing. Okay, so we will use a heat map. Okay, so let's see sns dot heat map. We will pass this string dot is now command, and we don't want the ticks, so let's do y-tick levels, y-tick levels as false. Just want to see what are the missing values. Okay, y-tick level is false, and color bar is also we don't want, equals to false. Okay, one more thing. When we use any kind of function, we can just hit shift and tab, okay, to see what are the input arguments we can give. Okay, so you can expand. So you see these are the input argument we can give inside hitmap. So we can use data, vmin, vmax, cmap, center, robust. So all those input arguments can be given. These are optional arguments. The main argument is the data, and it will plot eventually. Okay, so you can go ahead and explore this, read the documentation, and we use color map, cmap, as it is. As you can see here, there are a lot of missing data in cabin, and some data is missing in age column. Okay, so these are the two columns where the data are missing. And cabin, we have lots of data missing, and so many data are missing. It would be better if we just drop the column, right? Because there is not much of a data with which we can derive a insightful conclusion. However, in age, we have few number of missing values, so we can convert it using imputation, right? We saw imputation in our feature engineering slides, so we can use one of the imputation method to fill it. Uh, Before doing that, let's see some other thing. Um, so let's first do this sns dot set style. So I'm changing the style a bit as white click. What it will do, it will make the background of the plot white. Okay, and it will have a grid. Then let's plot our uh, target variable. Okay, so what we are trying to do here, we are trying to see how many people have survived and what is the chance of survival, okay, of a person given the features. Okay, so if I give a new set of variable, this is the person, this is the cabin, this is the age, this is the, so predict whether this person, if he was in Titanic, whether he would have survived or he would have died. Okay, so this is the target of my model, is to predict whether a person given the features would survive or not. Okay, so let's see how many of the given training input the person, how many persons survived, how many did not. Okay, so let's see the x as is the column. We will see the target column. The name of the target column is survived, so we will pass the survived column. And where the survived column is, data is equals to train. You see, most of the majority of the person did not survive. Okay, some of them survived. So around just a little more than 300 survived, and almost 550 people did not survive the Titan. Okay, now let's see this plot in hue of sex. So we will distribute this survival using the sex. How many male or female survived or did not survive. So how we do that? SNS dot count plot x equals to our survived q, using which we will be distributing the survival, is our sex column, and let's just plot this.
আর দূর থেকে দিয়েছি, আমার বোধ আছে।
What happened? Okay, I forgot to give the
সারাদিন
data.
ঘুরে ঘাড়ে সেই সব
Data is our thing.
এটাই এয়ারবর্ন ডিজিজ।
You see, if the sex is male, now this is very insightful. The number of male who did not survive is larger, and the number of female is the more number of female survived the crash. Okay, a less number of female didn't survive. Okay, so it was a story that we all know. When the ship was drowning, they first rescued the female and the children. Okay, so that story is supported by these statistics. So the male did not, most number of male died, and the females, the ratio of female survival is higher, right? Let's just what we can do, uh, we
Okay.
can just let's do the distribution plot of sex. Let's see. Sorry, the age. What are the age? Uh, what are the age bins where the people who boarded the Titanic? Okay, so let's plot a distribution plot. That is this
আমাদের
plot
প্ল্যান ছিল এটা থেকে
of
এক্সটেন্ড করে
column sex. Let's see.
একটা পেড কোর্স
Sorry, the
করানো
age.
পরের সপ্তাহে
Thing
অ্যাডভান্সড মেশিন লার্নিং।
of column is age.
টিচ তো করা হবে, দেখা যাক কজন করে। মনে হয়
And for the
5-10
time
জনের
being,
বেশি করবে না, যদি করে
you see there are
নাও করতে
some
পারে।
values, missing values in age, so we will, for the timing, we will drop it to see. Just for the visualization we are dropping it. After that we will use it.
এতে তো
We will
এখন
make
অবধি
KDE
20টা পেমেন্ট হয়েছে।
is equals to false, and we will create bin is equal to 30.
20টা
So we
পেমেন্ট
will
মানে তো
do
4000 টাকা।
we will create 30 bins and
একেই তো দিতে হবে।
see what are the age values. So from the plot it is rather clear.
4000 টাকা
So
টোটাল।
there are
টাকা করে।
certain number of infants, so from 0 to 10, so 0 to 2 age there are certain number of infants, then the number is decreasing when the age is
ঘন্টার বেশি
increasing,
করা।
then from 15 to let's say 35, the most majority number of age group 15 to 35. Okay, then as the age increases the number of passenger decreases. So this is the age distribution. Okay, now we can plot it in another way. We used Seaborn. We can use the Pandas plotting also. So how we will plot that? Train, we pass age, that is a capital. Okay, then we just do plot
50টা পেমেন্ট হলে 10000 ওর টাকাটুকু উঠে
plot
গেছে।
his
এবার যা হবে
histogram
সেটা
plot it is,
এক্সট্রা।
and for his we will
লাস্ট
pass
ডেটে
the
সবচেয়ে
number
বেশি
of
পেমেন্ট
days
হওয়ার প্রবাবিলিটি
is
থাকে,
equals
দেখা
to
যায়।
30.
কালকে লাস্ট ডেট 4টে অবধি পেমেন্ট।
It will do the same plotting. Okay, so there are two methods to do that. So now let's see the information about the file. So the info, these are the columns. There are 10 columns. One is our target column, that is survived or not, and other are feature column. Okay, so it has objects with string. It has numerical values as integers and floats. Let's see the fair distribution. What are the fair distribution and how many given that much of fair? Okay, so let's see train fair. I want to see the fair. And plot the histogram. You see, majority of the fair was in the lower level. Okay, So it is between $0 to $50. Okay, so if I want to create a bigger bins, so this is a bin of 50. I want to create a bin of much lower range. So what I can do, I can just type here number of bins is equals to, let's say I make it 40, and let's just make it a bigger. It's big. Fixed size equals to, let's say 12,6. Now it is more visible. You see, still the number of lower fare tickets are more. Okay, so if you want a more interactive plot, you can use cufflinks. Okay, so cufflinks and other interactive uh, visualization library using which you can do interactive plotting. Okay, so I don't, do I have it? Let me just do the pip install. Okay,
না এখন হয়ে গেছে
install
এখন তো বলছে
cufflinks.
নিয়ে নিয়েছে হ্যাঁ তুমি কি করছিলে এতক্ষণ একটা একটা থ্যাংক গড তুমি খুব ভাবছিলে না
It is installing. Just wait for a second.
লিখে দিল
Ah, it's done.
ও কোথায় আছে কালকে কি অফিসে
So let's just
হ্যাঁ সে করবে
import cufflinks as, let's say, CF. Okay, and you can type CF dot
আচ্ছা
go offline.
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ
This is for offline interactive plot.
ভালো হয়েছে
Okay,
কথা বলেছে
and you can then pass on the command like this: train here
আমার ইচ্ছাও ছিল না কাকা
the interactive plot, that is I plot. Find is equals to this, and the bins is
আচ্ছা
equals to 40.
ব্যাপারটা একটু মাথায় রাখতে চাইছে
So you see, this is the plot. So this is the plot using cufflink. This is an interactive plot. You can zoom in and zoom out also. Okay, you can zoom in, zoom in the sections. You zoom out the section. Um,
ও আচ্ছা না নিজে নিজে রাখতে দেখাতে দিও না
okay, so this is you can go and check out the library to explore more. Okay. Just set it. Yeah. So this is the cufflink plot. Now let's move on to some data cleaning. Okay, so as we see here, if we just rerun this piece of code to see the missing values. These are the missing values we had. So we want to deal with these missing values. So what we will do, to do this, it is a best practice to analyze a bit deep before replacing the value. Okay, so the first we will deal with age. So we will replace the age values depending on uh, which age group data we have in what amount, depending on which we will you can also generate a model to see the features, and but we won't do that much. We will just use a box plot. Okay, so box plot will serve the purpose. You will understand why I am saying this. So let's say P class, we are taking X as P class and Y as age to see which age belongs to which class. Okay, and data is equals to the train data. Uh, so this is my data. If I can enlarge it a bit, big size, okay, box plot don't have the big size. Maybe some other parameter it passes. Okay, we can get an idea here. So the class, the age group of first class have a average age near to 40, whereas the second class seats have an average age of 30, and third class have an average age of nearly 25. Okay, so using this, we will now let's create a function which will impute or which will replace the missing values depending on which class, which passenger class is it from. It will see which passenger class it is from, and then it will replace the value. Okay, the averaged value. Okay, so we can do that because as you can see, there is no missing value in the P class, passenger class. So if you found the passenger class in the first class, the missing value will be replaced as let's say 37. Okay, if it is found as second class, it will be represented as let's say 29. It is just lower than we can see, and for the third class, it will be represented as let's say 25. Okay, so let's create the function. To create a function, we will write it like this: define, let's say missing value, missing age. Okay, and we pass on a variable, let's say c. Okay, now if age is equals to c0, p class is equals to c1. Now if pp dot is null, age, it will fetch the ages. If the age have is null, if it is true, what it will do, then it will look for the passenger class. So we will define if p class is equals to 1. If it is a null value, then it will look for class. If the class is 1, so it will pass, it will return, let's say, what was the value? 30, let's say 38. Okay. And if p class is equals to let's say 2. So if the missing value is from second class passenger, it will return, let's say for second class it is just less than 30, so I will take it as 20. Okay, else if it is not from p class 1, p class 2, it is definitely from p class 3, then it will return as the third class is let's say 25, return 25. And if it is not null, I mean if is null age is false, then what it will do, if it is null, then it will do this thing. If it is not null, else the else is for this if statement, else it will return. If it is not null, it will return the age that is present here Is it making any sense? So it will fetch the age first and the passenger class from an input C. We will create the input C. Don't worry about C. Okay. Now, so C is an input which have age and passenger class. Okay. Now, if it looks into the age in this age, if this age is null, so it will go into this if loop. Then, if it is null, then it will look for passenger class. If the passenger class is 1, it will return 38. For 2, it will return 29. For 3, it will return 25. If the age is not null, that means there is a value in age, then what it will return? It will return the value it got in the age. Okay, so this is our function. Now, let's use this function. So, train age equals to, we will pass on these two parameters, age and p class. Train, so we pass on these two parameters in single list, right? So single pair of values. So we will pass age, comma, plus. Okay, so we passed it, and what we will do? We will apply this. We will apply missing age into this values. So this is my C. You see, C has age and P class. So I created age and P class in a single set of value, and we apply. Then we apply the missing value, missing age. Apply missing age, comma, and how it will be applied? It will apply on the column. Each column, not by row. So if you mention axis as 1, it will apply on columns. If you mention axis as 0, or if you don't mention, by default it will apply it on every row element. Now if I have applied 1, it will apply it on column element. Okay, so let's run it. Let's see. It says, oh, I forgot to put a third bracket, so I need to put it on the third. So you see, it taken as a list. So list don't have an apply function. So I have put it in the train itself. So it is a data frame now. Hopefully this will work. Invalid syntax error. Oh, I don't need to put it here. There's no error. So I applied it. Now let's see how my data looks like if I applied it. Print dot head. Now from here we cannot understand whether the missing value is replaced or not. To see that, we will again use the bitmap sns dot bitmap. Using the same formula, I'm not writing it again and again. So let's just copy paste it. Okay, so the age is replaced. See, there is no missing value now. Now we have Kevin. So because Kevin has too much of missing value, it doesn't. It is not very advisable or good to have all the missing value imputed with some other value. Okay, it may affect. So it is better to drop this entire column. So how we will do that? We will just drop it using train dot drop in it, and inside this, drop. I am dropping the entire column. So I will just write uh, what was the column name?
তখন পড়াও
Cabin.
হচ্ছে যে এইটা পড়াবে
Cabin.
এইটা পরীক্ষা আসবে
Okay,
করিয়ে দিচ্ছি
and
ঠিক আছে
it will be dropping the
তুমি দেখি নামিয়ে না
column. So
কন্ট্রোল বসিয়ে
axis is
দিলে
one
নিচেতে
here also,
আর ওইটুকুনি দুধের
and
শিশু
I will
হ্যাঁ
pass
করছি আমি
in
তাড়াহুড়ো
place
করবো তখন আর মনে থাকছে না যে
equals
কি
to.
না বাচ্চা ধরবো না বা কি করবো
Okay, now if I see my
পরীক্ষা
data,
নিয়ে বসবো ফ্লোর পেয়েই র্যান্ডে
brain
দিচ্ছে
dot head,
এইটা আবার কোনো কথার কথা হলো আমি
you
আবার
see
ওকে তুলে কাছ
there is
থেকে
no
বের করে রাখলাম আর দিদিটা তো পরে
um,
দিদিটা জিজ্ঞাসা
cabin
বলছে
column
क्यों रखी
present
हो
here.
मम्मी वहाँ पे
Okay,
मत रखिए उसको ও ভাই কি খুব
now
ভালোবাসে এই রকম একদিন এত কাঁদছে দুধ খাচ্ছে না না বলছে মাম্মি तुम अपने
now
साइड
if
से
now that we
ऐसे
have
क्या
resolved most of
बात
the
को
column
मुझे तो
issues,
देवे ना
the
এমন
column with age and cabin, now
এরকম করে
you can see
তারপর
embarked also have a
বাচ্চাটাকে আমার কাছে দুটো
maybe
দিক
one or
থেকে
two
দিয়ে
rows
দিই
of missing values.
দিয়ে
So
আবার
we just simply ignore uh, that one. So we can
হয়
simply
মাঝে মাঝে
drop that. So
তারপর
to
আবার
do
ওর
that,
মুখ
we can
ওকে
pass
দেখে
now
বলছে ম্যাম
dot
ম্যাम सुनिए आज ना मम्मी
drop any
मैंने कहा क्या जाने पूरा फूल है बहुत
in
भारी
place equals to,
এরকম বলি
because we know that there is no much column left with missing values. We can just pass this. If there is single one or two column rows with missing values, we can just
কি
drop
আজকে
it.
শেষ
So
করবে না নাকি
it dropped that value. And now if I just run this code again,
এরাই কিন্তু ঠিক মা
let's just run it here on. You see there is no missing value. All the missing values are taken care of. Okay.
বোঝাই যায় না
There are more things
হ্যাঁ বারবার
we
দেখছি কথা
need
বলতে
to
বলতে
do
এই
with
জন্য
this. Like
হয়ে
this,
গেল
the sex has a categorical uh, uh, element. So for male female we need to convert it.
দিচ্ছে না মানে
So how
ভীষণ
we will
একদম
convert it?
ভীষণ অসুস্থ ভীষণ ভালো লাগে না
Uh, we will convert it using
সবজি
pt
তরকারি
dot
সব খেয়ে উঠে পালাবে একটু
get
দোয়াটা দিয়ে দিলে
dummies,
উঠে পালাবে খাবে
and we will pass the train
ঘন্টা গ্যাস করে ঘন্টা গ্যাস করে মুগ ডালটাকেই অ্যাভয়েড করে মুসুর ডাল খায়
sex
মসুর
column,
ডাল মটর ডাল
right?
ছোলার ডাল সব খায়
So if I
কিন্তু
pass it,
মুগ ডালটাকে অ্যাভয়েড করে
you see all the
মুগ ডালটা না
columns
ওই
are
লাউ
females
চালগুলো তুমি যদি
and males
রান্না
are
করো
converted
রাত্রে
into
যখন
zeros and
খেতে
ones.
যাবে ওগুলো তো নিজেই
Now
একটা
there is a
মানে
problem.
ডাইজেস্টিভ
If
ব্যাপার
I
আছে
keep
ওই জন্য
all these values as zeros and ones, the after 2, 3 or tens of training, the model will understand if female is zero, the male is one. If female is one, a male is zero. It is just complementing each other. So we don't need both the rows, both the columns, right? If we have male equals to one, it eventually understands that the female is zero. Okay, so we can keep only male
শেষ
as
করবে
one.
না
If
নাকি
male is zero, that means it is a female. Okay,
পাগলা
so
নাকি
we may drop the first
ওই
column.
স্নেহা শেষ
So
পড়াচ্ছে
it is a best
সবাইকে
practice to
ওই
drop it.
ওয়ার্কশপ হচ্ছে
Drop one column of the dummy columns.
একটু জোয়ান হন
Okay,
হ্যাঁ
so
সবে বলতে
let's
একটু জোয়ান হন
put it like this: sex equals to
তারা
get
লিখে
dummy
দাও সব
sex,
বিট লবণটা নিয়ে
comma,
আসলে না বিট লবণ একটু ফেলে জলের মধ্যে গুলে
drop
খুব ভালো কাজ দেয়
first
ইনস্ট্যান্ট ওই
is
একটা
equals to.
দুপুর হয়ে গ্যাস ফ্যাস হয়ে না
Okay,
শরীর ফ্রেশ হয়ে যায়
we have a sex column. If I
আমাকে
just
কোথায় খেতেন বাবা
see what is
রোদে
sex,
বলে একটা জিনিস
we get male
রোদে
zeros and ones.
পালকটা খেতেন
Okay, similarly, we have another categorical column, embark. Embark thing with embark. So let's just copy paste it.
আর বড়দির কথা
ভুল
শুনলে
কেন পড়াবে
Let's say embark
হয়ে গেছে
is equal to get dummies. The column name is embark,
বলে দিই
বড় সায়েন্টিস্ট হয় আলফার লোককে আমরা নিই না
and we will drop the. Okay, so if I say embark, we get 2, and if both are 0, we know the embark column represents C, right? So we don't need C column. Using these two columns, we can predict, we can know the C also. Okay, so these are the columns. Now, if I see my data frame dot head, okay, sorry, train. Paint dot
হয়েছে
head
ঠিকই,
is
কিন্তু
my.
ওটাকে তো ইজি করে দিতে হবে, তাই বহু করে
Now we
দিয়েছি।
have these many of
আচ্ছা
columns.
তুমি
So
বলো।
we have sex, we have birth.
সত্যি
Okay, before now
হয়েছে ঠিকই,
the
হেসে
sorry,
দেখালো যে আমি
the
বুঝতে পারলাম না,
embark and sex what we have
তা নাহলে বুঝতে পারবে না হয়।
created,
হয়েছে
we
ঠিকই
need to add it to the data. To add that, we need to
জ্বালা
do
দরকার
train is equals to
হয়।
cd dot concat.
আমি
It
তো
concatenates the columns
এখন
or
চারিদিকে
the
কথাবার্তা
data.
শুনে
এই
Okay,
পাগলা আছে ছেলেটা।
concat. Now we pass
ছটা থেকে পড়াচ্ছে, আটটা
the
অবধি পড়ানোর কথা।
original data frame
আমার ছেলেটা
and the created columns, the sex and
এমন একটা সত্যি
m,
সত্যি
yeah, m bar.
বদনাম দিচ্ছে পাড়ায়,
And how it will concatenate? It will concatenate column wise. So the axis is equals to y. Then let's see the output. Now as you can see, we have name q and s as extra columns. Now when we have these columns, we really don't need this one and this one. Also, we are not dealing with names because it is very hard to process each name. Okay, maybe you can do Mr., Mrs., and all, create this column with who is Miss, who is Mr., who is Mrs., who is Doctor. Okay, and derive some insight from that. But for the time being, we are not dealing with name also. Also, we are not dealing with the ticket. What is the ticket? So these are some of the useless column or which won't help the analysis of our model. So we need to drop this. So let's do that. Train it dot sex comma embark, then name and ticket. Here the cropping will be done column wise. So axis is equals to 1. And in place to. Okay, now let's see train dot head. So this is my processed data now. Now we can use this data to model. I guess we have done so much of modeling today, and it is quite a bit a long time when we are doing this process. So we can stop it here, and we will uh, other method. So we will process from here, proceed from here in the next class. So I would like uh, you, if you have any questions to ask, let me ask, or I will end this session. Is there anybody from the team? Srijit or Archit?
ওরা অত কি জানবে, খালি মেন্টার 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 কি আমার বাবা হয় নাকি? জানেই না অত বলবে। ফালতু ওরা। এই যে সব জানলে তো হয়ে গেল, ওয়ার্ল্ডের বেস্ট মেন্টার হয়ে যেত।
Archit or Srijit, are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess it is a bit long today because of the technical glitches and all of
Yes,
that.
yes,
So,
yes, yes. So okay.
so
So okay for today, I would ask Srijit to
we should
stop
wrap up
this.
today.
Yeah, I would ask Srijit to stop the streaming. Srijit, have you stopped the streaming?
Yes, yes, I'm stopping it now.